Jump off that exhausting hamster wheel and into balanced living with Dr. Marissa.
Promise you joy in the mystery.
Dr. Marissa, also known as the Asian Oprah. Her mission, to be a beneficial presence on the planet. Her purpose, to be your personal advocate to live, laugh, love, learn. Her life motto, don't die wondering. Take back your life with Dr. Marissa Pay.
And welcome. You are tuned into Take My Advice. I'm not using it. Get balanced with Dr. Marissa, the morning show here on NBC News, CNBC News, and NBC Sports radio station KCAA AM 1050, FM 102.3, FM 106.5, and streaming everywhere. iHeartRadio, Spotify, Stitcher, Podchaser, iTunes, TuneIn, Audible, Amazon Music, Tiki Live, Rumble, and more. Why so many places? Because I'm on a Happy 88 mission, which is 88 million more happy people in the next 8 years, and to prove that you can have a show that talks about good news and solutions instead of if it bleeds, it leads, and all the things that you hear in the morning if you are not disciplined about not starting the day with your phone that make you say, what's wrong with people? Instead, I want you to start your day with what's right with people, what's good with the world, what's good with you, and what's good with me. And I am so grateful to be back here in studio. I think you all know that I was gone for 2 weeks in Canada to visit my mom who has Parkinson's, and it was a mixed trip as far as emotions, of course, but it was beautiful when I got to give her that last hug before leaving. She was very appreciative of my visit, and I was very grateful that I got to spend the time with her, especially since her helper, in Canada, they call them PSWs, came down with COVID. So it was a good thing that I got to be there and really up close and personal. So I am going to start the day the same way that I usually do, with the gratitude sandwich. I hope you enjoyed the pre-recorded shows that I left the studio with. I just asked my sound engineer, Sam, if he missed me, and he said every day. So that's my first gratitude of the gratitude sandwich. Also, just before we get started on that, to tell you what's coming up and to invite you. I put a link in the studio chat that Thursday's caller compliments and commercials is today, Thursday. So if you are listening in, and I see the eyeballs, so I know there's people listening in, not just if you're in your car, you can't chat, so don't chat. But if you are sitting at a computer or on your phone and you have a compliment that you want to pay someone, that's today that you can put it in there and I'll post it up. If you'd like to actually give it, then you can come in studio, or if you want to call it in, it's 888-909-1050 that you can call, and Sam will take that down. Or, as I mentioned, go in studio, or if you're a little shy, just give your compliment to the person that is next to you. It's also commercials, so if you have a product, service, or a show or a book that you would like to promote here, you get 30 seconds to do your commercial. And if you want some feedback on communication, which is one of the areas in branding that I get to work in, then you'll get that for free as well. And then finally, the question of the day, which I'm going to go and answer my own question that I didn't even know I had, because I got to spend a flight back to California from Canada with a couple, and he has Tourette syndrome. And so I'm going to give you my, and some parts are a little embarrassing because I'm human and I had the reactions that I'm not proud of, but I absolutely learned so much from him. They were kind enough to answer questions. I told them that I was going to talk about the interview here. So that's what's coming up after the break. So stay tuned. And if you know anybody with Tourette's, or if you want to learn how you can make people with Tourette's more comfortable, then you'll want to stay tuned. And of course, the Asian Oprah giveaway today is an audiobook copy of my #1 bestseller, 8 Ways to Happiness from Wherever You Are, which houses all of those tools that I talk about on this show and how you can be happy 88% of the time. All right, so let's start with taking a bite of my gratitude sandwich. Why do we start this way? Because instead of scrolling through all those negative things that I talked to you about, I focus and force you to look at things that are good in your life. And that's what gratitude's all about. My beautiful Dr. Wayne Dyer, who's on the other side, one of my teachers, he said if you start with 5 gratitudes every morning, you'll have an amazing life. I'm an overachiever. If you know, I like to use a lot of 8s, and that's because 8 is a homophone for good fortune. So I know you thought I was Swedish, but I'm actually Chinese. So in Chinese, 8 means good fortune. So 88 is your good fortune, your birthright to happiness 88% of the time. So I do 8 gratitudes in the morning, and I'm going to do 3 so we can get on the topic. Actually, I'll do 8 because I'm glad to be back and I want to supercharge my day. So my 8 gratitudes in my gratitude sandwich, that's the top of the bun. 1, I'm grateful to be back in California because I'm solar powered and I love sunshine and the beach. 2, I'm grateful that we in life can move wherever we want to, or most places. Right now, there's some places in the world you wouldn't want to move to, but we have, for the most part, or at least definitely the top 8% of us who have a roof over their head, food in their fridge, and a little money in their wallet, we do have that freedom to move. That's 2 gratitudes because I am grateful for the fact that I am in that 8%. 4, I'm grateful that I have tons, 55,000 videos in my phone that I can use to, one of my Happy 88 tools is when I'm not feeling good, I can go to my phone and pick out a video that makes me smile or laugh, which is my favorite sound in the world. And I have access to that because of technology. 5, I'm grateful that I was missed at the studio. 6, I'm grateful that I only gained 1 pound while I was in Canada, which is pretty amazing. When you go back home, sometimes you tend to gain weight. I don't know if part of it is emotional eating, but that's another story. That's 6. Number 7, I am grateful that today I get to go back. My manicurist, Lucy, is open again, who had to close down during COVID, and that small businesses are, I feel bad for those that didn't make it. It's tough, and I just know that means you get to do something else. But appreciation for the small businesses that made it through COVID. And then finally, 8, I'm grateful that I get to do what I do. Because anytime I don't feel good, I just open my mouth and start talking about my mission, and then I feel better. All right. And tonight, before you go to bed, the bottom of the bun is 8 appreciations of yourself. What do you appreciate about yourself? It's a skill that we don't practice. We're not taught to do it in school. We're told, or at home, we're taught that, don't be too full of yourself. Don't think too much of yourself. And we took it to an extreme so that we don't know how to validate ourselves. We don't know how to say, good job. We're constantly looking for someone to give us those kudos and looking for love in all the wrong places. So I am training all of my audience to go to bed not thinking about all the things you didn't get done, but think about the things you did get done. Think about the things that were compliments instead of the insults. Think about the people that you love instead of those that insulted you and you want to insult back. So I appreciate that I am resilient, and that even though I've been very open about myself being the one of 7 out of 10 of us who've had childhood trauma, I don't regret it, and I know that it was all part of the plan so that I can identify with those who are, and also have a flashlight to prove and to show and to help and to be a docent in your museum of life, so that you know that you do have the birthright to be happy 88% of the time, even if you've had tremendous pain in your past. I appreciate that I troubleshoot well, and I try not to get too frustrated. And I appreciate that I know when I get pissed off at someone that I have a choice to stay in that pissed offedness or to let it go and give people the benefit of the doubt that they're, doing the best they can, as I am. And those are 3 things that I really appreciate about myself. I'm not going to do 8, I'll do the rest at night, but to give you that example of what to do tonight. And I promise, if you do this discipline of taking a bite of my gratitude sandwich for 30 days, that's the 30-day diet on the gratitude sandwich, you will feel better when you wake up, and you'll be able to sleep better than you ever have. So if you're ready for that challenge, go to drmarissa.life, sign up, and let me know what happens. All right. That is the first portion of Take My Advice, I'm Not Using It. Get balanced with Dr. Marissa, the gratitude sandwich, to start your day in the most positive way. We'll be right back with more, especially my encounter up close and personal with Tourette syndrome, when we come back here on KCAA, the station that leaves no listener behind.
Hi, my name's Dr. Marissa. You know me as the Asian Oprah and the celebrity host producer of your morning drive time show, 8 a.m., called Take My Advice, I'm Not Using It, Get Balanced with Dr. Marissa, the morning show. And I'm on a happy 88 mission. That's 88 million more happy people in the next 8 years. And therefore, I'm delighted to tell you we're going to start something new that balances out all the bad news and gives you something to smile about. Yes, I'm starting a compliment line. So if there's a compliment that you want to pay someone, maybe your boss, maybe that cute person that you've got your eye on, then you can do so by calling 888-909-1050 and tell my screener that I have a compliment for Dr. Marissa. So I'll put you on so you can give that compliment and feel good about giving it, and the person receiving will feel good as well. There's more than one way to be happy with Dr. Marissa. Keep it tuned here to Take My Advice, I'm Not Using It, Get Balanced with Dr. Marissa, the morning show at 8 a.m. weekday mornings here on KCAA, the station that leaves no listener behind. Hi, my name's Dr. Marissa.
Off that exhausting hamster wheel and into balanced living with Dr. Marissa.
Promise you joy in the mystery.
Dr. Marissa, also known as the Asian Oprah. Her mission.
And we're back. You're tuned into Take My Advice. I'm not using it. Get balanced with Dr. Marissa, the morning show here on NBC News Radio, KCAA AM 1050, FM 102.3, FM 106.5, and streaming everywhere. iHeartRadio, Spotify, Stitcher, and my YouTube channel, where if you free subscribe, you'll get an alert every weekday morning for a show about hope and happiness. So there's no gossip, no scandal, no K words. In fact, you will not hear the word or the person Kanye, the K word Kanye, at all during the show, because I want you to focus on your own reality show and how you can be happy 88% of the time. And it is color, compliment, and questions and answers and commercial. Thursday, I'm a little distracted because I'm trying to do a Instagram live at the same time, and we're getting a lot of flickers here. But I'm so glad that you're here, especially since I'm back live now, back from Canada, my 2-week sojourn there, back to the future. And I missed you. I hope you missed me too. Thank you, Sam, for saying he missed me every day. And we're actually going to talk about, I'm asking myself the question for me to, how do you deal with, or how can you understand Tourette syndrome more so that you can react in a way that helps and not hurts the person, as well as when you don't understand something, you may have more of a negative reaction to something different than you do positive. So let me give you the scenario and the backdrop on this. And LA City Prop, you can let me know if you're seeing some problems on the Instagram, and I'll just have you move over to my YouTube channel, where you can stream this, as well as Facebook, and get my interviews with Halle Berry, John Travolta, and Quincy Jones. Forgot to say that earlier. All right, so let me take a breath. I was in line in Canada at the Toronto Pearson International Airport, and I was ready to come after. It was an emotional 2 weeks in Canada. My mom has Parkinson's. She's sort of in palliative care now, which is like one before a hospice. And it's hard to watch. Aging is not fun. And so I was exhausted. So I'm saying that to say that emotionally, physically, I was exhausted. And I was looking forward to the 5 hours of sleep on the plane. And when I was in line at customs, and it was like an hour and a half, because there's a labor shortage everywhere. So apparently there's not as many agents. So if you're flying anywhere, go early. When they say 3 hours, go there 3 hours. That's a separate tip. And I heard what I thought was a puppy barking. And I was like, oh, that's, cute. And I wonder if they're coming on my flight. And then I kept hearing it, and I realized it was coming from a gentleman who was, making that like barking sound. And I was like, wow, I guess that is Tourette's. And I've not known anyone with Tourette's. None of my friends or family, so no exposure at all. The only exposure I'd heard of was, some people will say in the news about an encounter they had, and I'd heard that there's swearing and people. I think my first reaction when I had heard it, it's like, oh, please, what, you now have an excuse to swear and say that it's, you can't help it. So I'm being human. I'm being honest here because I think I'm pretty relatable, I've been told. And I'm putting the moose on the table, which is my Canadian version of talking about the elephant in the room. And I remember also hearing about Billie Eilish admitting that she had Tourette's. So that was it as far as exposure. So then the part of me that really wanted to sleep was half jokingly, I said to the person beside me, maybe I should ask where they're sitting and get a seat changed, which I'm not proud of myself for saying, especially when she said, that's got to be tough and it's hard on, that's got to be difficult. And I immediately felt shamed and, chided myself and said, you're right. And I had a similar reaction from my daughters and my niece as well. So I was like, okay, then that flipped me into the, I wonder, what it's like, and it's got to be difficult. So that was good. I get on the plane, and guess who got seated right beside me? And I was in the last row, it was 100% packed. And in that last seat, you can't even recline. So first of all, I, wouldn't have been able to sleep anyways. And then I think because I asked the question, I wonder what it would be like, that I got to have the answer. So I, his name, and I have his permission to do this. I got to interview Andrew Zhuang and Emily Tran. And it was wonderful in the sense that I introduced myself and I said, I'm a broadcast journalist. Would you mind answering some questions? I asked if he was comfortable to be on camera. He said no, which I totally respect. And I was so glad that with the time that I could not sleep, I was able to have this up close and personal encounter with someone who had Tourette's. And not only does he have Tourette's, he has the most severe kind, which is coprolalia. And coprolalia is the one that you not just have tics, audible tics, you also have the swearing that comes with it. So I'm going to share with you what he and Emily told me. And I think that it goes right in line with my show, which is to highlight things that are, we don't know. And when we don't know, we have not nice reactions to. But when we understand, then we can, and when we explore and investigate, then we can have better reactions. And that's why I'm talking about this on the show, because there are those things that let's not highlight, people with disabilities. Let's not talk about it. Just ignore it, pretend it's not there. And that makes them comfortable. And that's not necessarily true, because if we don't understand it, if we're not real about it, then we have reactions that could be negative and more harmful. So just so you know why I am talking about this. All right. So what's funny is, what are the chances? What are the chances of this? Turns out he lives where I was born, in a tiny little town in Ontario called Waterloo. It's not as tiny now, because BlackBerry was stationed there, and the university is a big university that my father taught at, University of Waterloo, for his whole life. But the first thing was, where are you from? Waterloo. Wow, that's unusual. So what are the chances of that? That put us at ease. I asked him when he first knew that something was up, and he said at the age of 4. And his parents took him to different doctors, and they thought it was because he had something wrong with his tonsils. So they removed his tonsils, not knowing that this was a tic that is common, and 1 out of 100 children actually have tics. I had no idea. So for most of the children that have the tics, it does disappear by adulthood. For Andrew, it did not disappear. And by the age of 8, so it took them 4 years to diagnose Tourette syndrome with him. And I can't even imagine what that's like. It took them 8 months to diagnose my father's lymphoma, and those were difficult times. So here, kudos to his parents. He says his parents, because I thought, he's also Chinese, that his parents, something like this for the average Chinese tiger parent or tiger mom would be pretty hard to handle. And he said that his parents were extremely liberal, extremely supportive, which he also said that his friends and family were very supportive. So he did not get as much bullying necessarily that he could have, which was great. He also told me that Tourette's is not genetic, and it is not something that you can necessarily fix too, which is, there's no medication that you take that will stop it. There's no, there is research going on, but I thought that was extremely poignant, that most diseases or disabilities have some fix, and to be living with something that does not have a solution necessarily, a clear solution, has got to be tough. Let's see. Bullying, he was very lucky. I mentioned that his friends, his family were very supportive. He did have hundreds of confrontations. Some teachers, which was extremely difficult to hear, that teachers would not be empathetic or understanding. And he was quick to point out that, the truth is that it is disruptive. And so he had compassion for his teachers, which I thought was amazing. I don't think I would have been quite as magnanimous about that. The number one reaction for kids and dogs is curious, which I witnessed because we were sitting in the back, and then there was a child to this side and a child to that side, and they were fussing when they came in. And my kids will tell you, tolerance is really, I don't mind if a very young child fusses who's uncomfortable on the plane and the changes in pressures, but the whiny ones, I'm not very tolerant of. So I thought to myself, I wonder how they're going to react to the Tourette's and the every 10-second sound that was quite loud, and then the swearing that came after it under the breath. And it was amazing. The children were the least bothered, the least, they would look, and then they would just look away, that it was nothing. So that was really interesting for me. I saw a lot of people staring, which is, again, normal in the sense that you hear something different and you'll look and you'll stare. I asked him, he said the funniest reactions is people will say, bless you, because they think it's a sneeze because of the sound. He has had way more aggressive reactions, like shut the fork up and, like, what are you doing? And like, stop it, as if he was able to control it. And that was one of the major points that I wanted to bring up, is that it is 100% involuntary. There's no control of that. Now, later on, I'm going to tell you what advice he gives to people with Tourette's to sort of, I'll just give it now. If you are, he said, can get yourself in the state of flow, he called it, which I thought was really interesting. So if you know someone who has Tourette's and they're struggling, one of the things I love to do on the show, and part of my work and my message, is those people, thank you for the thumbs up, is those people who are going through difficulty in life, like I was with childhood trauma, or whoever's going through physical challenges like cancer, or, Fran Drescher came on the show because she had cancer and she took that difficulty and has Cancer Schmancer, which is a site that has tons of information on how to prevent your risk of cancer. So the reason why I'm talking about this is I asked him specifically, do you have advice for those people who have Tourette's and are struggling with it? And he said, yes, look for a flow state of activity. So those things that you are comfortable with, that you enjoy doing, that you are, you can fixate on or become involved in. And the interesting thing is, we also talked about Parkinson's, and he said that Parkinson's is actually a cousin, they're finding, to Tourette's. And my mom, and remember my 9-year anniversary show with Don's wife, Don Mosroff Mel from Happy Days, celebrating my 9-year show, his beautiful wife Morgan came on, and she said the same thing, where if you have Parkinson's, if you have a disability, a person with a disability that you have no control over that symptom, like Tourette's, then if you can find something to do that engages you fully, hers was poker. And for Andrew, he's a professional badminton player. And there's things that he likes to do that completely engages him, and that when he's in that flow state, it will lessen the frequency and the severity of his coprolalia, which is hits 1/3 of those with Tourette's, which is the most severe, that has the swearing on top of the tics, the audible tics. So that's one advice that he gave. The second advice is to introduce it, if you're in a new setting, that people will go to the best case scenario of empathy if you are comfortable as well. So in a new setting, he says he'll say, by the way, I have Tourette's, so don't be alarmed, and that usually helps people embrace or be more empathetic than be shocked. He did say that there was a varying reaction to the syndrome, and that if he's actively doing his audible tics and then his swearing, that the less, how did he put it? I wrote it down. The less evolved or the less understanding, the worse the reaction. The less the understanding, the worse the reaction. So that's another thing for advice is, when you're in a place where people are not interested in differences. So if it's a high state of racism, if it's a high state of prejudice, don't expect people to have good reactions. And that'll prepare your own, your expectations. So I thought that was interesting. But I know my audience here are all going to be empathetic when they now hear someone with Tourette's and learn from my, 88% good reaction, 12% bad. All right. The other thing is, and his example was, what he's done ride shares, and he said 80 to 90% good experience in ride shares because he, did the introduction and made people feel comfortable. Let's see. The negative reaction that you do get if you have Tourette's, if you are experiencing people giving you a negative reaction, the best thing to do is to ignore it. The more you focus on it, the more stressed you're going to be, and the less it's not good for you. And that leads to the advice for us. So I asked him, what advice do you give? How can we help? Which is another thing that I love to learn. How can we react in a way that is more helpful to you, someone who has Tourette's, so that your stress level doesn't go up in that situation? And he was wonderful about giving advice for us. Number one is to know that it is 100% not voluntary, uncontrollable. So telling someone with Tourette's who's having the bark or that, that involuntary yell, to tell them to shut up is completely the worst reaction you can have. So that's number one. And people do it. And that's the sad thing, is that people do it. Number two, empathy is the best. So if you can be empathetic, okay, and now the third one, there's a distinction between empathy and pity. So he said, pity is just as bad as a negative reaction of telling you to shut up, because pity makes the person feel less than. And really, the beautiful thing about Andrew is that I asked him, did you ever say, why me? Did you ever say, why me? Why is this happening to me? Which happens a lot to people who have a disability and or have a physical, something happens. It's natural. And he said no. And I was so impressed. And he said, because I don't feel like it's that big of a deal. I don't feel like that it really is a disability. Do I miss going to movie theaters? No. It's like, and that I think goes back to advice for people who have a disability, is that if you can get to that place, which I preach about all the time, I don't regret the kind of experiences, the negative experiences, because I know that helps shape who I am. And I love myself 88% of the time. And you could tell he was in that boat. He was totally in that space of, whatever. Now, I could tell he was a little more stressed when he talked about certain things, and his tics would get more. And I tried to say, we don't have to talk about this, but it was great. I'm so glad. My original reaction to knowing that I was going to be sitting for 5 hours beside someone with Tourette's, to this amazing, what I now know and understand, and meeting someone like him. So let's see. The last thing I'm going to share is his girlfriend, technically, I wasn't sitting beside Andrew. It was me, window, the airplane window, and then his girlfriend, Emily Tran, and then him, Andrew, on the aisle seat. And so, you know me, I'll ask any question there is. And so I wanted to know, how did you guys meet? And she was as comfortable as he was with the Tourette's and did not, you know, flinch or blink or anything. And they actually met at a club in Toronto in line. And she shared that she didn't even realize that he had Tourette. So when they're in line and there's a lot of noise, and she didn't even notice. And then he asked her out, and she went and did her due diligence and checked him out on social media. And he had a blog about Tourette's, and that's when she found out. And she said that, you know, it was her parents were very accepting. They've been together for 6 years. She's met his parents. You know, he actually has a great job. He's, I forgot to tell you that, let's see, he has a bachelor's of math from University of Waterloo, where my dad taught chemical engineering. He has a master's in math. He's a data scientist. He works for a company. They were going to California for a conference. And I think I mentioned he's into a lot of sports, and she was very impressed with all of that. And they have a great relationship. You could just tell, you know, they were very comfortable, and it was a hashtag relationship goals, certainly, to watch them and be blessed with, you know, having a seat and getting to interview them. So that was my experience, my up close and personal experience with Tourette syndrome, and with someone with the most severe, which is I'm going to be able to say this by the end of the show, coprolalia. And I was so impressed. And so I'm going to give them a Beneficial Presence on the Planet Award for sharing their story to help me understand and help hopefully all of you understand how we can best support Tourette syndrome and those with it. And hopefully you heard all those suggestions. All right, and we're going to go and have a quick break before I come and sum this show up. If you have any questions or comments, please do call 888-909-1050 or go into the chat and tell me what you thought of that and what you learned. And we'll be right back on Take My Advice. I'm Not Using It. Get Balanced with Dr. Marissa, the morning show here on KCAA, the station that leaves no listener behind. To the world was exploring the world. What if the question, what do you want to be when you grow up, little girl, turns into how many streets of life you have to explore? What if the purpose of life is not to die with the most toys to leave our squabbling relatives? What if the purpose of life was to do things that we enjoy most of the time? Have relationships that we enjoy most of the time, and use our unique talents, gifts, and abilities to fully express in the dash between birth and death? What if, as a direct result of this horrible pandemic, we could rise out of the ashes with a new PPP, post-pandemic possibilities? The sooner you turn, it's impossible, to I'm possible, the what ifs become possible too. Because you are loving, lovable, and loved, wrapped in a warm blanket of worthiness. But it may start with getting out of bed and making it what if
starts with
Take back your life with Dr. Marissa Pay.
And we're back. You're tuned into Take My Advice. I'm not using it. Get balanced with Dr. Marissa, the morning show here on NBC News Radio, KCAA AM 1050, FM 102.3, FM 106.5, and streaming everywhere on this number one talk news station in the IE. And thanks to you on the number one 8 a.m. show in the same place. I'm so grateful that you're here. I hope you enjoyed and learned from my up close and personal report of Tourette syndrome from my flight back from Canada. If not, you can get this show again on my YouTube channel. Free subscribe there. Thank you so much, Sam. You don't know this, but remember I asked for the wish of by my 9-year anniversary on the air on camera that my YouTube views would hit 250,000. And guess what? Not only was it 250,000, it was 251,000 something. So I am so thrilled for that. Thank you all. Yay, Sam. Thanks for that applause. Again, you hit the button before I could get to it, but I'm so grateful. I forgot to do that in the gratitude sandwich. All right. And we're wrapping up now. I am going to give the Asian Oprah giveaway to the first person that goes to drmarissa.life and puts down Asian Oprah giveaway. For a change, I haven't done that for a while. In the subject line, you'll get the audiobook copy of 8 Ways to Happiness, which I happen to narrate. And you can be on your way no matter what's happened to you, no matter if you're a person with a disability, no matter if you've had past trauma, no matter if you have, bad things happening right now. You still can choose happiness. And that's the point of the book. I am grateful that there's exercises in there that if you do all the exercises in the book, I promise that you will not hate yourself the same way again. I call it my self-help book on steroids. It's a cross between I'm okay, you're still okay, for those of us who remember that book, as well as you can... Don't Sweat the Small Stuff. Remember that book? And the Big Stuff. So that's the Asian Oprah giveaway. First one to drmarissa.life. In the subject line, put Asian Oprah giveaway. We'll get that. For those of you who are tuning in for the first time and are wondering why I keep saying Asian Oprah and Asian Oprah giveaway, I was actually introduced to Oprah as the Asian Oprah by my big brother, Michael Bernard Beckwith, founder of Agape International Spiritual Center. And the other commercial I'm going to give is, you heard the promo for my new short film, PPP, Post-Pandemic Possibilities. So if you are a business owner or you're a manager or a director that is now faced with people coming back to the workplace, many doors are opening now and returning. If you want to hit that PPSD, post-pandemic stress disorder, on the head and actually give people a chance to process through the grief, the loss, the fear that happened, and then frame the new strategy or the new going forward and actually mark that as a point where we can go up from here. Hashtag UP, hashtag unlimited possibilities, then please do contact me. You can book a little time. Happy to speak to you about coming to your organization, showing this film, going through the process, and then you will be on your best foot forward. Obviously, I'm wearing my hat of my PhD is in organizational psychology, so I'm a corporate psychologist, and I can help you with that. All right, drmarissa.life again, or you can go and just schedule a little chat with me at drmarissa1.youcanbook.me. All right, I'll try to put that in the chat as we continue. I am so grateful that we get this chance to talk about things that are in the dark temporarily and shine the light of awareness to it so we can make those changes. I would ask you as homework to share this particular episode with anyone who maybe doesn't know that their reactions are not helpful. I would, anyone that you know that has Tourette's, anyone that you know has experience with it or are feeling helpless and don't know what to do, that these are absolutely actionable things that you can do to help people who have a disability with Tourette's or actually anything. I think that the advice that Andrew gave me, those things that empathy is better than pity, that the absolute reaction of staring is understandable, but then, instead of staring and then looking away in disgust or looking away in fear or looking away in, ignorance, you can replace that. So I'll leave you with one of the tools that I use in valuing diversity. Because why do we have a tendency to have a negative reaction to anything that is different? My best example is walking by a microwave in your lunchroom, in your office cubicle, or wherever you're working. If you walk by the lunchroom and you smell something coming out of that microwave that you have never smelt before, the tendency is to say, what is, that's, people should have rules on what they can put in a microwave. You shouldn't be able to bring that to work, or, that's typical Asian food or whatever. They shouldn't be allowed to. And I've heard those reactions, and that is the typical, it's different. So you judge it, you're disgusted by it, you're fearful of it, you're abhorrent of it. And that's why we get to racism. And that's why we have things like Buffalo. And that's why we have problems in our country with prejudice, because your reaction to difference is negative. Now, I'm not asking you to go to the other extreme, which is, oh, you walk by and you smell it and you go, oh, let me try some, give me some. And like, oh, I'm going to love this. That's ridiculous. If you don't like something or you don't want, you're not going to say that. And that's going to the other extreme, which is unrealistic, right? That's like the extreme when someone says, I prefer to be called Asian American, or I prefer to be called Black instead of African American. It's like, well, make up your mind. What's the term? What's the correct term to use? You're missing the point here. To show respect is to have the reaction that person feels most. And then so people go, well, then give me the Bible that says what term it is. You're missing the point again, because people are going to have different preferences. So that's the other extreme. The balance, and what I'm asking you to consider, is just the same reaction as the babies and the dogs had to Andrew's Tourette syndrome, which is curiosity. So you walk by, you smell what that is, and you go, I don't think I want any, but I wonder what it is. If we can get to that point of experiencing a difference and just be curious about it, we're going to get to world peace. So there's your challenge. This is Dr. Marissa reporting live from my living room on the show, Take My Advice. I'm not using it. Get balanced with Dr. Marissa, reminding you that it is all about balance. Peace in, peace out, world peace through inner peace. Now go forth and multiply the curiosity that you are, and have the best day ever.